Season 1 of Arcane was 6 years in the making, 4 Emmy Awards, 9 Annie Awards, and was ranked number 1 on Netflix at its release in 65 different countries. And Season 2 promises to be just as spectacular, if not more. These past weeks, we've been spoiled with content and information about this new season. The short teaser where we see Vi as part of a Piltover Enforcers team, Christian Linke's announcement about Riot's future plans for the world building of Runeterra, the full trailer for Season 2, packed with information to dissect, and a special event at the Annecy festival, where I got to see an entire scene from Season 2 with explanations provided by the creators of the show about how and why they made this scene. I also had the immense privilege of talking with them and many others from Fortiche, including Arnaud Delors, who told me he had seen my video on Arcane theories and that he generally enjoys seeing what fans imagine will happen. So, let's dive in, because there's really a lot to dissect. But first, a warning. Fortiche wants to trick us. But I won't be fooled, and therefore, neither will you. So before starting my analysis, I'll tell you what Fortiche wants us to believe. They want us to believe that after the explosion of the Piltover Council, Ambessa Medarda allies with Piltover to avenge the death of her daughter and stop Zaun's rebellion. Vi and Caitlyn form a commando unit to arrest Jinx and the other Chem Barons. The struggle between Piltover and Zaun will culminate in a final battle between Vi and Jinx. But I can assure you, much more will happen. It might even be that all these events are just the first arc of the season, and that in this trailer there are scenes from the beginning, middle, and end of the season mixed together to make us think that they're in order. But I won't be fooled. Alright, let's go. It starts with what is likely the aftermath of Jinx's rocket's explosion. There's still the red glow of the blood moon, and the iconic little blue hextech lights floating around the Enforcers, searching the debris.
Your council is dead.
The very first sentence of the trailer is a lie. Of course it's a lie, even though we don't see any council members in the trailer, and even though Riot did say that characters from League of Legends can die in the lore, Jace and Viktor, for starters, cannot have died in the explosion. Viktor still has to undergo the modifications that will transform him into the Herald of the Machines, and Jace still has plenty of hextech devices to invent. We can see confirmation of this in the trailer, by the way. Caitlyn's rifle is powered by a hextech gem. When she fires, it even creates an acceleration gate that could be compared to Jace's E in-game, likely to give the rifle even more range and power. It also looks very similar to the runic circle that appears when the hex gates are used. And there's also a frame in the trailer where we can see Viktor, but we'll talk about that one later. And there's also the fact that in the German trailer, they kinda messed up. When Ambessa says, "Your council is dead," the German version of that says, "Half your council is dead." There are 7 council members at the time of the explosion. So if we believe this translation, there are either 3 or 4 survivors. One of them is Jace, and in this image, we can see that he is right next to Mel. In my last theory video, I explained that I think that the golden plates on Mel's back are a magic Solari artifact, like the Locket of the Iron Solari in League of Legends that provides a protective shield around the person wearing it. I think that thanks to this, Jace and Viktor will survive, and maybe Mel too, since the shield would emanate from her. The counselor on her right could be the 3rd survivor, given his proximity, but that's not as sure. What is sure is they want us to think that Mel is dead. And it is true that she might be. That would give Ambessa a good reason to want to attack Zaun. As she says,
Wrath must be met with wrath.
But it's precisely because they want us to believe that I don't think that it's true. Take a look at this scene from Season 1 that makes a lot of sense in this context.
If you want to last in this world, you must learn to be both the fox and the wolf.
Be the fox and the wolf. Ambessa wants to take control of Piltover. The technological advantages of hextech are quite significant and would make Noxus's armed forces unstoppable. This scene is also another good example.
I've had word from our friends overseas. This threat from the Undercity is drawing attention. Piltover looks vulnerable.
It's too soon. Jace isn't ready.
In Season 1, we learned that Mel was banished by her mother, who sent her to Piltover. But that was clearly a strategic move. Ambessa placed her there to prepare for Noxus's arrival. This is a tactic widely used by the Noxian army to facilitate their invasions, and Mel is far from the only Noxian there. There's this character, for example, whom we find in episode 5 in the brothel, and then in episodes 8 and 9 alongside Ambessa. A brothel is an excellent place to station an agent. Tongues loosen and secrets flow. It's no wonder Littlefinger in Game of Thrones owns so many of these establishments. Another character I mentioned in my previous video is Amara, the old lady as I call her, who I think is part of the Black Rose. She might even be one of LeBlanc's clones, given the number of similarities between the two of them. And when I mentioned this theory to Arnaud Delors and Arnaud Baudry, they said, oh, so, you know. Ambessa therefore shows the cunning of the fox with her various Noxian agents in Season 1, and the strength of the wolf with her soldiers in Season 2. This war between the two cities is the perfect moment for her to take control. She'll take advantage of the council members' deaths to install herself as leader, tie her armed forces to Piltovers, and impose martial law to bring Piltover under Noxian control. Mel would obviously be against all this. We've seen her oppose her mother already, saying that Piltover is not like Noxus, that violence is not their first and only option. In the final moments of Season 1, she even removes her ring, the symbol of the Medarda family, before voting for peace. We then see her painting of Noxus covered with golden paint, a symbol that she wants to cut ties with Noxus. This color does represent Piltover, but also the Solari, another clue of her potential origins. And Ambessa's war outfit is another one. In Annecy, we saw some concept art for Ambessa too, since, spoiler, Fortiche is working on a musical cinematic for her release in League of Legends. And in those artworks, there was one that looked like a Solari ritual. Anyway, Mel would oppose her mother's takeover, so she might be dead. But I wouldn't be surprised if we find out in Season 2 that she survived the explosion and that Ambessa simply kept her hidden or even locked up to execute her plan without opposition. By making people believe that Mel is dead, Ambessa can also push Jace to create Hextech weapons to avenge her death. That's what I think anyway. Ambessa doesn't ally with Piltover to attack Zaun to avenge her daughter's death. A war between the two cities has been part of her plans from the start. That being said, one thing is almost certain, however. Caitlyn's mother is dead. Another oopsie in the German trailer is when Ambessa says,
You will have justice.
The German translation is, we will avenge your mother. The moment we see Caitlyn. Honestly, I don't really understand how they could have put that in their trailer, but, well, we're 99.9% sure that Caitlyn's mother is dead, especially since we have other clues. In episode 3 of Bridging the Rift, we can see an animator working on a scene where Caitlyn is with her father and he looks devastated, probably due to the death of his wife. Another clue is the council chair we see when Ambessa begins her speech. It's Caitlyn's mother's chair. And by the way, this single image of an empty chair has so much more importance than we might imagine. I have to take a minute to talk about it. This image is present at the beginning and end of Season 1. In fact, chairs in Arcane are at the center of a very powerful symbolism. At the end of Episode 1, Vi and Powder are together on the rooftops, gazing at the towering council building of Piltover. The episode then transitions to its final scene with the image of a half-destroyed, empty chair, resembling the chair seen in the trailer for Season 2. This chair belongs to Silco, the mastermind behind the current conflict between Zaun and Piltover, and the one who turned Jinx into who she is today. In Episode 9, Silco dies in another chair, at the head of the table, the seat of a leader. Jinx, devastated, but resolute, sits in yet another chair with Jinx written on it. As soon as she sits, Powder is no more. Only Jinx remains. And while Jinx's rocket streaks across the sky, we see Silco's empty chair at his headquarters. Once again, the seat of a leader. The leader of Zaun's revolution. Now empty. Begging to be filled. Possibly by Jinx. Additionally, in episode 8, there's a flashback with Mel and her mother, where we can see the throne of a leader killed by the Noxian army. Again, destroyed similarly to the ones in episode 1 and the trailer. The seat of power is a dangerous place, and these parallels throughout the series are simply magnificent. Cassandra's death will give Caitlyn a personal vendetta against Jinx. Not just to capture her, but to actually kill her. Ever since the very first teaser for Season 2, we've known this.
Every way I slice it, if I go after your sister alone, one of us comes back in a box.
Even though we see Caitlyn and Vi side by side, this tension will create a rift between them. Throughout the trailer, Caitlyn's face shows anger, 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 while Vi's shows sadness, sadness, sadness. And something just doesn't add up in their storyline. Look at Caitlyn's new outfit, with the beret from Legends of Runeterra, her role as the new sheriff of Piltover, her team, and finally her Chemtech rifle. But in this small shot, that's not the Chemtech rifle, and this guy is not wearing an enforcer uniform, even though they're facing a massive Chemtech creature, who, by the way, has a couple of similarities with Mundo, even though I don't think it's actually him. It's possible Caitlyn lost her rifle in the fight and picked up another one, and maybe this guy took off his uniform, but it's more likely this scene takes place before Caitlyn gets her rifle, and before this character becomes an enforcer, suggesting the story takes place over a much longer period of time that we're led to believe. There's also this image, where we see a character that's theorized to be Marcus's daughter, all grown up. If that's true, there might be a 10-year time lapse between this scene and the end of Season 1. This is what I mean when I say Fortiche is trying to fool us. And there's another problem with the timeline stemming from the scene we were shown at the Annecy festival. I won't spoil it entirely, but if you really don't want to know anything about this scene, skip this part of the video. Okay, here we go. The scene focuses on Vi and takes place in Zaun, where she now lives on her own. Vi has yet another outfit, different from her Season 1 look and from her enforcer uniform. She uses grease to blacken her hair and create war paint on her face to hide her tattoo, to prevent people from recognizing her. She wears a black leather jacket with a two-headed dog image on the back, referencing the two-headed wolf from the jungle in League. And this scene aims to show Vi at her lowest. Amanda Overton said, "Vi is a protector, always caring for others before herself." Here, we wanted to see who Vi would be with no one to protect. She's torn between two worlds. She doesn't belong in Piltover and can't consider Zaun her home anymore. Amanda said her new look is a way to show on the outside what she is feeling on the inside. They also told us that this scene happens around the middle of Season 2. So there has to be some important event that gets Vi to that point, and another important one to get her out of Zaun again. This season is clearly not going to be as straightforward as the trailer suggests. Now, let's talk about the war that's brewing between Piltover and Zaun. We can see wanted posters for Jinx in Zaun and graffiti of Jinx portrayed as a liberator in Piltover. Chemtanks attack enforcers. Enforcers enter Zaun. There are combat scenes everywhere. An explosion in front of a Piltover checkpoint in Zaun. All at a very rapid pace. But I think these scenes spread throughout the season, sometimes several years separating them. Most notably, there's a scene involving Smeech, a Chem Baron we see in Season 1. At first glance, you might say this statue looks like Jinx, but it's not her. And it isn't Oriana either, or Karina Veraza from Legends of Runeterra, as some people have speculated. It's actually this character that appears in the same scene as Smeech in Season 1. You can easily recognize the bolts on her nose and forehead. It was never specified in the series, but her name is Madame Margot. How do I know this? Well, during the live event Undercity Nights that happened in Los Angeles for Season 1's release, there were cosplayers hired by Riot to play different characters from Arcane. And this one was Madame Margot. She basically controls Zaun's entire prostitution ring, and it seems like we can see her symbol in episode 5 when Vi and Caitlyn visit the brothel. In the trailer, smoke flows from the statue's mouth, causing Smeech and his top-hatted goons to start coughing and choking. So the Chem Barons are clearly not all united. Silco led them in season 1, but with him gone, they likely started fighting each other for power and control. Some may have even allied with Jinx, and Savica is probably one of them, despite their differences in season 1. In the trailer, we can see Savica wielding Jinx's gun, and later on, her mechanical arm with Jinx's chompers, and her classic graffiti. And if you look very closely, you can see the numbers from the punchball machine on this new mechanical arm. In this shot, Savica is actually fighting Smeech, and in the back, there are a couple of frames where you can see Jinx standing next to a child, who's that, with a dead chem tank on the ground. So this conflict isn't just Piltover versus Zaun. Chem Barons are also fighting each other, which makes sense. It was already the case in the written lore before Arcane came out. Another thing, the chemicals in Smeech's augments aren't purple, they're green. So he's not using shimmer, but rather some other product that looks a lot more like Chemtech from the lore. Caitlyn says she wants to stop the production of shimmer, but that isn't the only product circulating in Zaun. But we don't really know much about this green substance. In season 1, there are a few shots where we can see it, like during the Chem Baron meeting or the Chem Tank fight. But this green chemical is also used to create Warwick. Since the beginning of the series, Singed has been trying to improve his formula for shimmer, remove side effects, and maybe make the desired effects permanent. By coupling shimmer with this green substance, maybe he succeeded. Warwick would be the culmination of his experiments. Vander's transformation is complete, and now only Warwick remains. In this trailer, we can also see Singed transfusing his blood to Warwick, and I think he does this for his own protection. Wolves use their scent to detect their prey. By transfusing his blood, Singed ensures that Warwick considers him to be a part of himself in some way, rather than prey. It could even allow Singed to control him. So you can imagine that this scene is going to become very bloody very fast. So does this mean that Singed is now allied with Smeech, and that's why Smeech has green products in his arm? Possibly, but in my opinion, it's much more likely that Singed is now independent. He may have supplied some of his products to Smeech, but I don't think they're allies. Now, as I said at the beginning of the video, there's a frame where we can see Viktor. It's very brief and a bit hidden, but there. That's Viktor's cane, and you can kind of see his metallic purple arm. He's clearly in Zaun, and those characters there, I think, are the poor people who have been disfigured by the repeated use of shimmer. And in this scene, Viktor uses magic. It also looks a bit like Viktor's ultimate ability in-game, Chaos Storm. So in this shot, it seems like he is blessing one of them, maybe to heal their corruption by shimmer. These people could then become the first acolytes of the Glorious Evolution. However, in the written lore, the Glorious Evolved replaced their limbs with mechanical versions to become one with technology. But with Arcane, it looks like they want to modify that. It could be the Hex Core that is the origin of their transformations, as we have already seen in Season 1 with Viktor's leg and hand that have become metallic and seemingly magical. Riot did announce that they plan to champion rework in League based on Arcane, and it could very well be for Viktor. Okay, let's talk a bit about the final confrontation. Vi against Jinx. In an old temple dedicated to Janna, seen on the wall in the back, Jinx drew the story of her life. Vander taking in Vi and Powder after the opening scene on the bridge, Powder and Vi as children, her explosive monkey and the shimmer vials, Vander's death in the flames after the explosion, Silco's death tied to his chair with Jinx's bullets that killed him, and you can also see Jinx's internal demons and what could be Jinx's representation of Caitlyn. This trailer really highlights Vi's journey to Jinx, and these drawings show Jinx's journey to Vi. The tension culminates with this image from the intro in every episode. It looks like this is the moment the entire series is heading towards. But are they really going to fight? Let's break it down. Here, Vi steps on a Jinx trap. We'd recognize her explosives, and Vi raises her Atlas gauntlets to create the shield that protects her from the explosion. But the explosion we see comes from another scene. We don't see Jinx's chompers exploding on Vi. And even in this shot, where we see Jinx firing her machine gun, we don't see who she is shooting at. It transitions to Vi in the next image, but it's not the direct continuation of the previous shot, and Jinx isn't even turned towards Vi. The trailer does end with Vi about to hit Jinx, but she clearly doesn't want to. Look at the pain on her face. Even if she says, "My sister is gone, this has to end," she doesn't mean it. And I don't think Vi or Jinx will emerge victorious from this confrontation. I think this scene could happen in episode 3, ending Act 1 with both of them going their separate ways. And the rest of the season will explore the conflict between the Chem Barons, the creation of Warwick, Viktor's evolution, and the completely overlooked story of Echo and Heimerdinger. We see them in the trailer, about half a second each. And since they are two of the greatest geniuses of Runeterra, who we saw discussing and probably theorizing together at the end of Season 1, there's clearly an important part of Season 2 that will involve them. I don't know, maybe we'll know more if Riot and Fortiche release a second trailer by November. Meanwhile, it's a mystery. And there's also a mystery about the future stories Fortiche and Riot will make, since they announced that Season 2 would be the final chapter for Arcane. But they are working on other series and even movies planned with other characters in other regions of Runeterra. I will have a video to talk about that soon. But for now, my analysis of the Arcane Season 2 trailer ends here. I will, however, post a video detailing the scene we were shown in Annecy, everything Riot and Fortiche told us about its making, and what I was able to decipher about it. There's some pretty big potential spoilers, so I wanted to make it into a separate video. Oh wait! One last thing. My theory about the hex score. You know, the fact that the symbols on it are the same symbols we have in game, that they're connected to the world runes that Rise has been searching for centuries. The coincidence that the only symbol missing from the hex score is the same one missing from Rise's vault in the cinematic The Call of Power. And the possibility that the reason why the hex score is unstable is because it's missing that runic symbol. Sky's book that has the same color scheme as the inspiration rune. Her last words being, "Everything you do inspires me." Her research most likely being the last piece of the puzzle to make the hex score complete. Well, it turns out I was entirely right. Amanda Overton told me all those things are 100% intentionally connected. And Arnaud Baudry told me that he worked on the part in Arcane about the hex score, and also, by the way, did the cinematic The Call of Power. So I'm quite proud of that one. Alright, now we're done. I do hope you enjoyed the video. There's a lot more where that came from. So don't forget to subscribe. Alright, see ya.